Ragana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome to the Nectar of Instruction Bhakti Sastri course. In the last class, we had began discussing text 8 and we saw this text 8 which deals with Raganuga Bhakti. Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smartyo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishtan Vraje Tad Anuraga Jananugami Kalam Nahe Takilam Ityupadesha Saram. So we saw that how text 8 discusses Shri Vraj Bhajan Pranali, the methodology to perform bhajan in Vraj. And we saw how text 8 specifically deals with Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. We have Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti within Sadhana Bhakti. And once a devotee begins spiritual life, he begins with Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And when he matures and becomes qualified, especially to practice Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, he begins Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And we discussed it all begins at the stage of Nishtha. From Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, slowly he goes to higher states in Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, from Nishtha to Ruchi to Asakti. And at the stage of Bhava Bhakti, he comes to the stage of actual spontaneous devotion. Bhava Bhakti is actual spontaneous devotion. And then he attains Prema Bhakti. So text 8 is the essence of all the verses in Upadeshamrit. Iti Upadesha Saram. So in that context, we discussed the definition of Sadhana Bhakti. Then we discussed the definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Then we discussed the definition of Raganuga Bhakti. And in context to Raganuga Bhakti, we defined what is Ragatmika Bhakti. What is Ragatmika Bhakti? And then we went into the purport. Srila Prabhupada focuses on controlling the mind, because to practice Raganuga Bhakti, one should have complete control over the mind and the senses. And practically at the stage of Nishtha, one is a self-realized soul, and he has all the symptoms of a Sthita Pragya, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 2.55 to 2.72. So then we discussed in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, after mentioning about control of the mind, then the next line of the verse, that is Tishtan Vraje, the next two lines, that is the third line and the fourth line. Especially the third line, Rupa Goswami starts commenting that one should reside in Vraj and he should practice Raganuga Bhakti. Now, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Raganuga Bhakti is dealt quite in detail. In fact, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is the topmost guidebook for us for practicing pure devotional service. It deals with Raganuga Bhakti sadhana also. It goes in detail with discussion of Bhava Bhakti, even Prema Bhakti. So that when we study quite elaborately the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that time also we will go through it. But two verses Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And actually there are three verses which speak about Raganuga Bhakti. And in the last class, we discussed this verse. Krishnam Smaram Janam Chasya. Prishnam Nija Samahitam Tat Tat Kata Ratas Chasyo Puryad Vasam Vraje Sada. So the essential elements of Ragana practices, Krishna Smaran, that one should be constantly able to remember the form of Krishna in Vrindavan. And also Janam Chasya, one should remember the dear devotees of Krishna, because we want to follow in their footsteps. We want to follow their mood. We want to emulate their mood of practice of bhakti, how they perform pure devotional service to Krishna. And we have a similar inclination, Nija Samahitam. I have an inclination of Vatsalya Bhav, so I will follow the dear devotees of Krishna who are in Vatsalya Bhav. That is Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and the elderly Gopas and the Gopis. And we will absorb ourselves in hearing those kathas. Tat tat katha rata. Absorbing oneself in hearing topics related to them. So if somebody has a Vatsalya mood, then they will be more attracted to hearing Bal Gopal pastimes. They will hear all other pastimes of Krishna in the 10th canto, but the Bal Gopal pastimes are very attractive and they have natural taste for hearing those pastimes. Just like traditionally, if somebody is a South Indian, he will have many other items in his meal, but because curd rice is very favorite, he will have more curd rice. So similarly, he will focus more on the Bal Gopal pastimes if he has that mood. And then the fourth instruction is one should always live in Vraj. Puryad Vasam Vraje Sada. So this verse is what we had discussed in the last class. Now, the next verse, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-295 is this verse. And let us take up this verse. Mohan Rup Sham Prabhuji, have we discussed this verse in the last class? Seva Sadhaka Rupena. Have we discussed this verse? Seva Sadhaka Rupena?
No.
No, yeah. But we have discussed the first verse.
First one, yeah.
Yes. So now let us go into this verse. Now again I'll refer to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the original verse for this. Okay. We have seen the purport, yes. Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tad bhava lipsuna karya raja lokanusarata. Following after the inhabitants of Raj. Raja loka anusarata. Rata means engaged and anusa means following in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis. One should perform seva, service, seva hi karya, in one's physical body, sadhaka rupena, and in one's siddha body, siddha rupena cha, with a desire for a particular bhava. Tad bhava lipsuna. Lipsuna means desire. So, as I had mentioned, that in Raganuga Bhakti, there is specifically a greed, a lobe. And this greed is completely a spiritual greed. when the heart is completely purified of all the material greed, lust, anger, pride, envy, then the spiritual greed awakens. And the greed is to attain a particular bhav of a particular associate of Krishna and emulate or follow in his footsteps and practice devotion towards Krishna. So, as I've been mentioning, that somebody has more attraction to Vatsalya Bhav. So, with the desire to attain that particular Bhav, like Mother Yashoda and Nand Maharaj, he practices following in the footsteps of Brajvasis. In his external body, he performs service, that is the physical body, that is called as Sadhaka Rupena. Seva Sadhaka Rupena. He does seva in his Sadhaka body. The Sadhaka body is the physical body. And the Siddha body is the internal meditating, internal body which is acquired through contemplation. As I had mentioned, that one who is at the stage of Nishtha is a self-realized soul. So he realizes he is not the body, he is the spirit soul. But the soul's swarupa in the spiritual world is gradually cultivated through internal meditation. So in his chanting, he might internally go into meditation and remember the pastimes of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda with Krishna, and slowly would like to emulate the practice of bhakti as practiced by the eternal associates, that are the Ragatmika Bhaktas. And slowly his mood, because his mood is that of Vatsalya Bhav. I'm just giving the example of a Vatsalya Bhav. So that Bhava, to attain that Bhava, which is possessed by the eternal associates, he goes into internal meditation and starts cultivating his spiritual body, the Siddha Rupa. Siddha Rupa it is called. It is called as one Siddha body. Now this is a very elaborate subject, and practically it will take 2 to 3 hours to discuss what is the Sadhaka Rupa and the Siddha Rupa. But we will just go briefly into the commentaries of Vishwanath Chakra Thakur and Jiva Goswami in this. And that's how we'll conclude this discussion here. When we study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in detail, that time we'll go more in detail. So, Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena. To attain that particular bhava, one should follow the Brajvasi, the eternal associates of Krishna. Now, what is the Sadhaka Rupa and Siddha Rupa? Let us see what the Acharyas have to say. Jiva Goswami. Sadhaka Rupa refers to the physical body of the practitioner. Siddha Rupa refers to the body which is suitable for one's desired service and which has been developed by internal meditation. So this is developed by internal meditation. In the last theme of this purport, there is the Anovarity Tika of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And this whole internal meditation, how it gradually develops, the whole process is given. And that time you'll much better understand what is this development of internal meditation. But I'll also give you some mundane example, material example in this world of how this internal body develops, so that we can have a understanding, because we cannot fathom what is this internal meditation. The Siddha Rupa is given by a guru on the path of Raga Bhakti. When he sees the qualification for Ragana Bhakti and a particular inclination in a particular disciple. So Siddha Rupa is basically with the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, when the heart is purified at the stage of Nishtha, gradually one's constitution is realized as that I am spirit soul. Now, what is the service in the spiritual world, in which mood he is serving? This, the disciple has a particular rasa, and this rasa is gradually revealed to the disciple. He might be attracted to Sakya ras, Dasya ras, Vatsalya ras, or the Madhurya ras. And now he needs expert guidance of a spiritual master who can see into the heart of the disciple, just like a radiologist can see the X-ray and read the X-ray report. Ordinary eyes, which are not trained in knowledge, they might also see an X-ray report, but they cannot read anything in it. It doesn't mean anything to them. Similarly, a radiologist, as he can see the X-ray report and detect, similarly, a spiritual master's eyes are like X-ray. They can penetrate the heart of the disciple and see that whether he has attained the stage of Nishtha, and based on his demeanor means his mood, his activity, he can understand that which rasa he is more inclined to. So this is given, these details are given by the spiritual master, and again this is a very elaborate topic and we will not discuss much about it now. Now, theoretically, this would be a form of an associate of one of the prominent devotees in Braj with a specific rasa, dasya, sakya, vatsalya or madhurya. So these are the four rasas theoretically as one of the associates. Actually, in the Suddha Rupa, what is your form in the spiritual world? What is your service? Under which group you are? What is your age? What is your dress? Where is your residence? What is your service? All these fine details are given. Along with the form, it is mentioned here, specific dress and service of Krishna throughout the day would be given. This is called as Ekadasha Bhava. Ekadasha means there are 11 characteristics of this these details which are given. However, now forms of manjaris, assistants to the Sakis of Radha, seem to be the prominent forms given. Especially in this Gaudiya Sampradaya, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually came in the mood of Srimati Radharani, but sometimes he exhibited the mood of Manjari also. And this is specifically revealed in one of his pastimes when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his associates was going towards Jagannath temple from the beach side. Suddenly when he saw the sand dune and the river, actually it was ocean, he thought that this is Govardhan and this is Yamuna and started running. And he ran, nobody could catch him, and suddenly he collapsed. And he was completely in his internal consciousness. All the eternal associates of Mahaprabhu like Swarup Damodar, Ramanand Rai and Govinda, they came, but Mahaprabhu had lost his external consciousness. After a few hours of chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to external consciousness. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Why did you wake me up? Actually, I saw Radha and Krishna on the foothills of Govardhan, and Radha and Krishna went into a cave and I was making garlands for Radha and Krishna." This is actually the savior of the Manjaris. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself as a Manjari also. This is very clear in the Chaitanya Charitamrita pastime. So this is the form, the Manjari Bhav. Radha and Krishna are served principally by the Ashtasakis. We know that Radha, Madhav and the Ashtasakis are there. And the assistants to the Sakis are the Manjaris. The Manjaris are of lower age compared to the Sakis. They are around 13 and a half years. And especially the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna, even the Sakis are not allowed there to do intimate service. It is only the Manjaris who are allowed to do service to Radha and Krishna in the most intimate pastimes. And we are in the line of Srila Rupa Goswami, and he is Rupa Manjari. So this is the line which is prominent in our Sampradaya. So because everyone who is practicing devotion, he is a follower of Srila Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami in his spiritual body is a Manjari, that is Rupa Manjari. So this is the most prominent form given. I will come to this Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena again. Now, the details are given in works by Gopal Guru Goswami, Dhyana Chandra Goswami, and Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. Now, again, this is a very elaborate topic. Actually, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur has written quite a lot in the Srimad Bhagavatam in his commentaries, and he has mentioned in particularly his books like the Raga Vartma Chandrika. Now, Gopal Guru Goswami and Dhyan Chandra Goswami also have spoken about this practice of Raganuga Bhakti where we can attain perfection. But we don't refer to that, especially we in the Parampara coming after Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Now, why it is so is a very elaborate topic, but again, I will not go into it. But suffice to say here that for us as sadhakas, two books are most important. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Upadeshamrit. At least for next 8-10 years, we should study nicely these books. And then we can understand these topics about Raganuga Bhakti. But definitely, only one point I would like to make here, that there are two paths of this internal meditation through which we start practicing Raganuga Bhakti and attain perfection, Bhava Bhakti. One is called as the Antapata and the other is called as the Bhyapata. Antapata means the internal path and Bhyapata means the external path. The internal path, now actually Mahaprabhu gave his teachings to Swarup Damodar. And Swarup Damodar in turn taught Raghunath Das Goswami and one of the eternal associates of Mahaprabhu called Vakreshwar Pandit. Now Raghunath Das Goswami accepted the internal path. The Bhyapanta was revealed to Vakreshwar Pandit. Vakreshwar Pandit later on gave it to his disciple Gopal Guru Goswami. And Gopal Guru Goswami later on handed over to his disciple, that is Dhyan Chandra Goswami. And Dhyan Chandra Goswami wrote books. So the external path is called as the exoteric path. And the internal path is called as the esoteric path. Exoteric, esoteric. Exo means external and esoteric means it is internal. So I hope you are clear. Exoteric and esoteric path. So in the path given, in the external path given by Vakreshwar Pandit to Gopal Guru Goswami and Dhyan Chandra Goswami, Dhyan Chandra Goswami wrote a book also on it, which is available. In that process, basically there are, in the deity worship, there are a lot of mudras and mantras which have to be meditated while doing the deity worship. And internally, the bhava is cultivated to attain perfection. But this external path or the exoteric path got, in one sense, it can be imitated. Anyone who doesn't have the bhava just by his external activities can do a imitation. So that is why later on in the 17th and 18th century, many apasampradayas just started imitating the external activities without having the internal bhav. And that is why so many apasampradayas sprang up. There is that Saki Bheki. You know what is Saki Bheki? Anyone knows what is Saki Bheki? How many of you have heard about the Apasampradayas? At least raise your hands. Apasampradayas. Okay, IVF devotees have heard. How many of you have heard? Okay. So Saki Beki means, they dress, these males dress in the form of a woman and try to imitate that I am a gopi in Vrindavan. All nonsense. So that is Saki Beki. Then there are, 13 such apasampradayas, which Bhakti Thakur has listed in his books, and he has completely refuted these apasampradayas. They are the Sahajiyas. You know the Sahajiyas, no? Sahajiyas, at least many have heard. There are like that 13 apasampradayas. The Sahajiyas, the Saki Bekis, the Karta Baja, the Baula, then there is Gauranga Nagari. So like that, many apasampradayas started imitating the external path without having the internal purification of the heart. So that is why in one sense, this external path got completely contaminated. So later on, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepted the internal path given by Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami is our Prayojan Acharya. And Raghunath Das Goswami in his books has completely given the internal path how to practice Raganuga Bhakti and attain perfection. Especially his book Manashiksha. And in the internal path, without the purification of the heart, you cannot do any imitation. There is no room for imitation in the internal path. So this internal path is perfect. So that is why Raghunath Das Goswami's internal path was accepted by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And that is the path which has been given to us, because the external path got very much contaminated because of these apasampradayas trying to just do external imitation without having the internal purification. Raghunath Das Goswami's Manashiksha is a classic work where slowly how we should become free from the anarthas in the heart, especially the anarthas in the form of the 6 enemies, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, and then how one should become free from duplicity, how one should become free from pratishta. Only when one is free from duplicity, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami says that bhakti can reside in his heart. So until all this internal purification happens, we cannot go to the higher practices of Raganuga Bhakti. We cannot elevate ourselves to higher levels like Ruchi Asakti. So especially for us, the internal path is revealed by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and that is what has been given for us by Srila Prabhupada to us. And for us, at this point of time, there is no need to more go into details. But if anyone is interested, definitely they can read Raghunath Das Goswami's Manashiksha, and one will understand that it is a very elevated book, and one can take permission from the spiritual authorities, the spiritual masters, and start reading Manashiksha, and then we understand how difficult is the path of bhakti until the heart gets purified with all these anarthas to progress. So this is the details I wanted to give a little bit about this. One serves with the desire for a particular bhava or rati of an associate of Krishna situated in Braj. Tad bhava lipsuna. I explained this. One should follow in the footsteps of the dear associates of Krishna in Braj, Brajaloka, and others loyal to them. So the Raganuga Bhaktas follow in the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhaktas, their footsteps, because they are eternal, perfect associates of the Lord. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary throws some light on what is Sadhaka Rupa and Siddha Rupa. One performs service with Sadhaka Rupa, the present body, and with the Siddha Rupa, the body which is suitable for serving Vraja Krishna in a particular type of rati or bhav one desires, which appears through inner contemplation with the desire for a particular rati directed to one's beloved Krishna situated in Vrindavan. Tad bhava lipsuna. So one performs service with his Sadhaka Rupa, which is present body, and in the Siddha Rupa, He is always in internal meditation on the eternal associates of Krishna, desiring their mood, desiring their mood. This happens, especially in their chanting, they can go into this internal meditation. Now, note, the idea here is that it is simultaneous in Ragana Bhakti, not at the same instant, but during the same period. For instance, for some hours he will meditate, and of the day he will chant, read, and do deity service. So practically, even anyone who is at the stage of Raganuga Bhakti, it is very difficult for us to identify that he is practicing Raganuga Bhakti, because nobody who has attained this confidential inner mood would ever reveal except to his spiritual master. This is not something cheap to be revealed to one and start exhibiting maybe that I have developed bhava. So ideally one cannot even identify who is actually practicing Raganuga Bhakti, because externally he is practicing all the limbs of devotional service. With his physical body he is practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, but in his internal meditation he is practicing Raganuga Bhakti in his chanting and all. Sometimes, especially some hours he might go into meditation. One should follow after the dear devotees of Krishna, such as Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, Shri Rupa Manjari, and those following after them, persons such as Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. So here the point is, in the Sadhaka Rupa, that is in the physical body, one follows Rupa Goswami. Here, for us, we follow Rupa Goswami. That means we practice devotion as given by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Upadeshamrita. And in the Siddha body, in the internal meditation, he will meditate on Rupa Goswami as what? Rupa Manjari. As a Rupa Manjari. So that is how, some idea to give you what is the Sadhaka Rupa and Siddha Rupa. Siddha means it's a development of the spiritual body. He has still not got the perfected spiritual body, but it is developed by internal meditation. It is developed by internal meditation. Accordingly, one should perform mental service in one's Siddha Rupa, following after the examples of Sri Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, Rupa Manjari and others. So here it is Rupa Manjari in the internal meditation, mental service, Manasa Seva, in the internal service. In one's physical body, one should perform services using one's body, following after persons such as Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, situated in Braj. So I hope it is clear, na? The Sadhaka Rupa and Siddha Rupa. Okay. So, okay, let me finish this discussion and then give you some more hint about this topic. By the word Brajaloka, one should understand persons situated in Braj, Radha, Chandravali and others. Following after them, one should perform service using one's physical body also. Some modern persons following the Sauramya Sampradaya think that since persons such as Radha did not perform services such as surrendering to Guru, following Ekadashi vows, and serving Shaligram and Tulsi, we also need not do those activities. Now here, especially when one enters into Raganuga Bhakti, many deviations happen. many deviations happens. Especially imitation is very easy, and what is imitated is something which is very rare in this world. Now we have imitation of diamond. Yes, diamond is very costly, and there are imitation diamonds. Yes, or there can be gold. Gold is pure. Gold is very costly. Then there can be imitation gold. Nobody will imitate a stone. Stone has no much value and there is no imitative stone, right? So something which is very rare, precious, very, very costly, like platinum, there can be imitation of platinum. Similarly, this bhav of Krishna Prem, this is very, very rare in this universe, not to speak of this universe, even in Vaikunta. Even in Vaikunta, it is not available. It's only in Golok. And this kind of bhava can be cheaply imitated, and that is why these upper sampradayas are there. So many upper sampradayas try to imitate, oh, we have a certain bhav, like the gopis of Vrindavan. So many years back, I don't know if you remember, it was out in the newspaper, one of the Inspector General of Police from Orissa suddenly started imitating that I'm a, what? I'm also a gopi. And he started dressing like a female and coming to his office. It became a big issue. I've attained, the bhav of Srimati Radharani. Such a horrible thing, And it went on in the newspaper for many months, in fact. So imitation of a rare thing is always done, like a diamond, or platinum, or gold. So there are many, many such deviations which have happened in the past many years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left. And there is the Sahajya Sampradaya, and here there is mention of what? Sauramya Sampradaya. So these Sampradaya, they concoct and they say that in Raganuga Bhakti, we should just follow the eternal associates of the Lord. Now the Lord's associates, whatever activities they did, which is mentioned in the 10th canto, only we will do those activities. We will not do any activities of Vaidhi Bhakti as Rupa Goswami has mentioned in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So, the gopis did not surrender to Guru. They did not follow Ekadasi's vows. They did not worship Shaligram Shila nor Tulsi. So we will also not do this. So this is how they imitate. And there are other practices which the eternal associates did in the past times, which are there in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Like Srimati Radharani used to worship the sun god, Surya Devata. Every day afternoon she used to go, for worshipping the sun god. But internally, the idea was so that she can meet Krishna. So then we cannot, oh, they also practiced, the gopis worship sun god, then we can also worship sun god? No. So like that, there are many fine, intricate details one should know when one starts practicing Raganuga Bhakti, and that's why one has to be under an expert spiritual master's guidance. Otherwise, many deviations come, and here is one deviation which is mentioned of the Sauramya Sampradaya. That idea is defeated here. Jiva Goswami in his commentary has explained this with the words Vraja Loka tu atra Krishna Preshta Janas Tad Anugatas Cha Tad Anusarata. Vraja Loka means those dear to Krishna, like Sri Radha, etc., and persons following them, like Sri Rupa. One should follow in that footsteps. So both we have to follow the eternal associates and Mahaprabhu's associates here in this material world. Okay. So this is regarding the discussion of the Seva Sadhaka Rupena and Siddha Rupena. Briefly again, we have discussed this verse. Now, I will give you one example just to have some idea of what is this Sadhaka Rupa and Siddha Rupa. Now, in the life of Narottam Das Thakur is the eternal associate of the Lord from the spiritual world. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself came in the dream and told him to go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Loknath Goswami. And there in the dream of Loknath Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and told that Narottam is going to come. Please give him initiation. And when Narottam arrived, in fact, when he entered Braj, Jiva Goswami was also indicated by the Lord that my eternal associate has come. So please go and welcome him. So Jiva Goswami sent two of his students, and first time Narottam Das Thakur met Jiva Goswami, and there one of the students of Jiva Goswami, Srinivas Acharya, and they became very great friends. And later on, even Loknath Goswami wanted to see the dear associate of Mahaprabhu, as he had already Krishna Prem, because we all know that when he took bath in Padmavati river, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had stored Krishna Prem there. And when he took bath, his whole body transformed and turned into golden. And he started chanting the name of Gauranga, Gauranga. And now he was maddened in Krishna Prem. And now he wanted to go to Vrindavan. Day and night he was crying in his house to go to Vrindavan. So he had already achieved Krishna Prem. That is first thing. Secondly, he is an eternal associate of the Lord from the spiritual world. Both Loknath Goswami and Narottam Das Thakur. So when Narottam Das Thakur humbly requested that please give me initiation, Mahaprabhu himself has requested me to take initiation from him. Loknath Goswami said, no, I will test you for 1 year, whether you are a fit disciple to be initiated. And you can also examine me. So for 1 year, Loknath Goswami did not initiate Narottam Das Thakur. And Narottam Das Thakur humbly started serving his spiritual master by doing a very menial service. In the early morning hours, when his spiritual master is to answer nature's call, he used to go and clean that area and keep a mud pot where water is there to wash his hands, and some lepa. Lepa means, mud soap to wash his hands. Every day he did this service. And Narottam Das Thakur in Vrindavan was studying under Jiva Goswami, and every day he was chanting 2 lakh names. Every day. And it is said, since Narottam Das Thakur is spiritually from the spiritual world, he knows his spiritual form also. So in his chanting and meditation, internal meditation, he in his spiritual body in Krishna Lila was serving Radha Krishna. He is one of the gopis and the manjaris in the spiritual world, and his seva is to boil milk, and after offering that milk, to serve it to all the gopis and especially Sri Radha and Krishna. So that is his service. So in his internal meditation, Narottam Das Thakur is to meditate on this seva. So he was doing seva in what form? In which body? Siddha body. Siddha body he was doing this service. He was doing this service. So once when he was boiling the milk, in fact in the spiritual world also there are iron pots and there is fire. You have to literally light the fire. So the fire was lit and the iron pot was there, the milk was there, and the milk was boiling. And after Narottam Das Thakur in his meditation, he immediately wanted to pick up the iron pot, and because the milk was boiling. So with his own hands, he picked up the iron pot. And when he picked up the iron pot, it was very hot and he burnt his hands. And here Narottam Das Thakur in his Sadhaka Sharir is doing what? Chanting Hare Krishna. So suddenly he came out of his meditation and he saw that his hands were burnt. So when his hands were burnt, it was severely burnt in fact. So then that day he applied a cloth and some medicine and applied a cloth, and the next day he was doing service in the temple. Loknath Goswami, his spiritual master, came to meet the disciple and he asked, "Oh, what has happened to your hand?" Narottam Das Thakur kept quiet. He did not answer anything, being humble. But then Loknath Goswami is also an eternal associate of the Lord. He knew why Narottam Das Thakur had burnt his hands. So he mentioned that yes, whatever service you're doing, that is your spiritual form in the spiritual world, and that is your service. So in one sense, the spiritual master gave him the Siddha Roop. He confirmed the Siddha Rupa of Narottam Das Thakur. So this is Seva Sadhak Rupena and Siddha Rupena, in brief, in fact, again. Now, for devotees who are practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, I would like to give another example to understand this Sadhak Rupa and Siddha Rupa. When we come in the association of devotees, we have been given the pure faith, the Bhakti Lata Bij, in the form of Shraddha, which is sown in the seed of the heart. Now, this Bhakti Lata Bij, slowly by the process of Bhakti, that is Shravan Kirtana, this Bhakti Lata starts growing. This Bhakti Lata starts growing. It is a spiritual Lata. It doesn't need any support. And growing like this, it crosses the Swarg Loka, crosses the Brahma Loka. Brahma Loka is where Lord Brahma resides. And then crosses the Brahmanda, pierces the Brahmanda, and enters the Viraja ocean. Now, how will one know that once Bhakti Lata has crossed this Brahmanda and crossed the Viraja? My question to you all. How do you know whether our Bhakti Lata has crossed this Brahmanda and crossed the Viraja? Anyone would like to answer? How will we come to know? What are the symptoms if our Bhakti Lata has crossed this Brahmanda? Yeah, one Mataji is answering here. Let me. Yes, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, one sort of that feeling will be there that we have achieved. That fire, it will come. That time we will come to know we have achieved.
Okay, I will give you some hint. Any symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita which we can practically perceive? Any symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita by which we can understand the Bhakti Lata has crossed this Brahmanda? Yes. Priya Prabhakar Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In Bhagavad Gita 10.9, Machitta Madgata Prana Bodhayantas Paraspara, where
Okay, but I'm still looking for something specific answer from the Bhagavad Gita. How will we come to know? Yeah, one of the devotees here is saying Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Sochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhakti Labate Param. The Sthita Pragya's, symptoms which are mentioned in the second chapter also. One becomes a self-realized soul. One is completely a self-realized soul. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmin neva atmana tushta sthita pragyas tajuchyate. As Krishna in the 2.55 in the Bhagavad Gita says, Prajahati yada kaman, no material desires. So at the stage of Nishtha, one is practically free from all material desires. At this stage, one's practice of Ragana Bhakti begins. Till then it is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, Anarth Nivritti. No, Bhukti and Mukti are troubling us. So at this stage, or Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma stage, Na Sochati, Na Kankshati. Then you can get Parabhakti. Then you can get Parabhakti refers to, the topmost devotion. The topmost devotion there. So, I'm just explaining this Seva Sadhaka Rupena in the form of an example where we can understand. Now, I give the example of just like a chaste wife is impregnated by the husband. Now, when she's impregnated, it is like the Bhakti Lata. But only after a few months, the wife comes to know that she is pregnant. And now the child is there in the womb. Now for the child starts developing in the womb, and it takes 9 months. So this development of the body of the child within the womb is similar, just a gross example, is a similar to the development of the spiritual body through internal meditation, through internal meditation. Now, for the chaste wife, it is important that when she is pregnant, when she is carrying the baby, she has to follow many rules and regulations. She has to eat proper food. She should not eat spicy food, right? There are so many other things which can, which she has to take care. And ultimately, after 9 months, she delivers the child. And usually the child, whether it is a male or a female, only when he is born, they come to know, the parents come to know. Of course, today in modern technology, they through scan and all, they, give an indication, but I'm just telling in general sense. So internally, the child is being developed in the womb. And when the child comes out of the womb, then we understand whether he is a male or a female. Similarly, the internal mood starts developing at the stage of Nishtha in the practice of Ragana Bhakti. There is a particular mood in general, but slowly with the practice of Raganuga Bhakti and in the higher stages of Raganuga Bhakti, it is like the development of the spiritual body. And after perfection of practice of Raganuga Bhakti, at the stage of Bhava Bhakti, what happens? Our Swarupa is revealed. Our spiritual body is now fully developed within. It is developed within. Our spiritual body is developed, and we know actually our rasa with Krishna, and we are able to relish that rasa, whether it is Sakya ras, Vatsalya ras, or Madhurya ras. Any of the rasas, the direct reciprocation starts happening at the stage of Bhava Bhakti. So that is how I compare. Now, there is chance that the child which is there in the womb can be, destroyed. And what are the 2 reasons by which the child in the womb can be destroyed? Can anyone answer? What are the 2 reasons? Anyone would like to try to answer this? What are the reasons by which the child in the womb can be destroyed? Yes, Mohan Rupsham Prabhuji.
Lack of nourishment.
Okay.
And then doing against the things, or giving a poison.
Pardon?
Giving a poison, giving an antidote to that.
Okay. Okay. Nirmala Mataji here has raised her hand. Let me hear what she has to. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The same answer, Prabhu. Sometimes abortion due to not developing the organs properly because of lack of nourishment also. Sometimes maybe it's a wish of Krishna.
Okay.
That's
no,
also
I'll give
there.
you, yeah. Many are now, 2 are clear, but 2 simple reasons can happen. One is miscarriage can happen.
Yes.
One is miscarriage. Second is the mother herself decides to abort the child. Okay. Now, miscarriage happens because of neglect of the mother in following the proper rules and regulations. The miscarriage can happen. And abortion is especially because they want to abort the child. That is her desire. Now, I compare these 2 to not following the Vaidhi sadhana principles. if we don't strictly follow the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti principles, then the bhakti which is there in the heart will not properly grow. And I compare, one Mataji has sent her answer, Vaishnava Aparad. I compare Vaishnava Aparad to what? Abortion. It's like aborting the child. That's how dangerous is Vaishnava Aparad. You know, once the child is aborted from the womb, then once again the Bhakti Lata, or once again the seed has to be impregnated in the womb. So once again he has to start his process right from again Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha Bhajan Kriya. That is how Vaishnava Aparad is. So we should practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti meticulously, and then we will come to Raganuga Bhakti. And even in Raganuga Bhakti, one should be very, very careful that one should not get deviated, or he should not get deviated in that path. So this is just briefly about Seva Sadhaka Rupena, Siddha Rupena. Again, when we go into Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, that time we will discuss more in detail. Okay, so now we have finished this. Now the last theme, what I'm going to discuss today is the last theme here is the Anovarity explanation. The Anovarity explanation which is there. Following the footsteps, we finish this. The Anovarity explanation is paragraph 4 and 5. Now here in this Anovarity explanation is the internal meditation of development of the spiritual body, and this devotees carefully have to understand this. So kindly pay attention, and if you have any questions, please be patient. Don't raise your hands now. I will finish the whole discussion and then take up the question answers. I will take up few slides and discuss, and then only take up question answers at the end. Okay, so let us hear the Anovarity explanation of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles. That is Vaidhi Bhakti, chanting and remembering Krishna, names, forms, qualities, pastimes, so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should live in Vraj. So first practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And when you develop taste and attachment for Krishna Katha, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and you come to the point where you are constantly able to remember Krishna, Smaranam, then one should live in Vraj and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's names, forms, qualities, pastimes under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. Now here again Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is making very clear. This is the sum and substance of all instructions regarding the cultivation of devotional service. Iti Upadesha Saram. Now, here this paragraph is very, very important. And here, how the internal cultivation right from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti to Bhava and Prema Bhakti goes through 5 stages is being mentioned in the commentary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Many acharyas have commented on these 5 stages, especially Bhakti Vinod Thakur in his Harinam Chintamani has given a whole chapter devoted to it, where he has quite elaborately discussed these 5 stages. Even in his other works also he has mentioned about it. But when we are studying our Bhakti Shastri course, we only come across only here in the Upadeshamrit. But there are other places where quite elaborately these 5 stages, or they are called as Dasha. It is not Dasa, it is Dasha. Dasha means state. So I will read this and then I will go to the slides and explain this. So kindly hear patiently. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravan Dasha, the stage of hearing. Now, the first Dasha we go through is called as Shravana Dasha, stage of constantly hearing. Now here I divide this into two different levels. One is called as, when we start practicing bhajan, which is called as bhajan kriya, there is anishtita bhajan kriya and nishtita bhajan kriya. Anishtita bhajan kriya means when our bhajan is not steady because of anarthas in the heart. Steadily practice devotion. Some days we are very enthusiastic and chant 16 rounds in the morning. The next day we are low, and to finish our 16 rounds we take the entire day. So like that our bhajan is not steady. So even if the bhajan is not steady, our hearing is also not steady. We hear sometimes, we get distracted by so many things, or we are sleeping in the class because of anarthas in the heart. Rajas and tamas is filled too much in the heart. So that stage of hearing, Shravan Dasha, is in the Anishtita Bhajan Kriya stage. From Anishtita Bhajan Kriya, one should come to hearing in the Nishtita Bhajan Kriya, where hearing is very steady, where hearing is very focused, and whatever one hears, he is able to remember, recollect, and summarize and explain it to others. So expert is his hearing, attentive hearing. So that is the stage actually of Shravan Dasha. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities and pastimes, one can attain the stage of acceptance called as Varana Dasha. Varan means to accept, Varana Dasha. So by doing like this Shravana, especially at the stage of Nishtha, what happens is one develops attachment to hearing Krishna Katha. One becomes attached to Krishna, attached to hearing. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to hearing Krishna Katha. Now, what happens when one becomes attached to hearing Krishna? When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaran Avastha, the stage of remembering. Now, this is the third stage. First stage is Shravana Dasha. The second stage is called as Varana Dasha. The third stage is called as Smarana Dasha. Now within Smarana Dasha, there are 5 sub-stages. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, trance are the 5 items progressive of Krishna Smaran. So I have put it here in the chart. First is Shravana Dasha, constant hearing, always engaged in hearing Krishna Katha. Then there is Varana Dasha, stage of acceptance, becoming attached to hearing Krishna Katha. Then there is Smarana Dasha, stage of remembering, chant in ecstasy. There is chanting in ecstasy. Now within this Smarana Dasha, there are 5 sub-stages: Smarana, Dharana, Dhyana, Anusmriti, Samadhi. Now, what are these 5? Prabhupada has briefly discussed this. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals. So this is what is called as Smaran, where there is remembrance of Krishna, but it is interrupted at intervals. Then it becomes concentrated and it is called, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. So Prabhupada has not briefly discussed each of the definitions. So I will go into the definitions now, where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has explained. There are 5 types of remembrance known as Smarana, Dharana, Dhyana, Anusmriti and Samadhi. Now this is exactly the Shravana Dasha and the Varana Dasha. In the previous slide, a practitioner who has not developed taste should engage his tongue, which is fond of other taste, and the mind, which desires other things, in chanting, remembrance of Krishna and so on. Krishna's names follow his pastime in the gradual path. When taste arrives, he should live in Vraj. And First in the life of a practitioner is the stage of Shravana Dasha, by hearing of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. This Shravana Dasha, as I mentioned again, it is at the stage of what? Nishtita Bhajan Kriya, not Anishtita. Then there is the stage of acceptance. And then by engaging in chanting with their heart, they come to the stage of remembrance. That is Smaran Dasha. Now within Smaran Dasha, these are these 5 stages. Now let us hear the definition as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given in his commentary. Smaran is remembrance mixed with distraction. What is Smaran? Remembrance mixed with distraction. Dharanans is remembrance free from distraction. Dhyan is meditation on the entire body of the object of meditation. This is Dhyan. Anusmriti is constant meditation, and Samadhi is complete constancy in meditation free from any interruption. After one goes through these 5 stages of Smaran, that is Smarana, Dharana, Dhyana, Anusmriti and Samadhi, one attains the 4th stage. After the stage of remembrance, that is this stage, Smaran Dasha, one enters into Apana Dasha. Smaran Dasha fully developed, understand his original constitutional position. So what happens to him? After the stage of remembrance, in the stage of attainment, Apana Dasha, at this stage, the practitioner realizes his true self. Now, among the 9 stages of Bhakti, which stage is Apana Dasha indicating? Anyone would like to answer? Among the 9 stages in Bhakti, Apana Dasha refers to which stage? Yes, one devotee has, typed here. I would request specifically to type to me so that, yes, it is the stage of Bhava. So at the stage of Nishtha, one is self-realized, but his Sarupa is not revealed. So the development of the Sarupa through internal meditation begins from the stage of Nishtha, and slowly with Richu Asakti, at the stage of Bhava, his Sarupa is revealed. His constitutional Sarupa and Rasa with Krishna is revealed at the stage of Bhava. Now, then in the final stage, that of fortune, Sampatti. Sampatti means, Sampatti means, Sampan. Sampan means, sometimes we attain wealth. Oh, he's got a lot of Sampatti, we say. So the real Sampatti for us is what? Krishna Prem. The practitioner attains absolute perfection, that is Vastu Siddhi. So this is about the 5 stages. Now we saw Apana Dasha, Smaran Dasha fully developed, understands his original constitutional position. Perfection of life, clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. This is Sampati Dasha. This is attained at the stage of Prema. So these 5 dashas we go through: Shravan Dasha, Varan Dasha, Smaran Dasha. Within Smaran Dasha, there is Smarana, Dharana, Dhyana, Anusmriti, Samadhi, and then Apan Dasha, and then Sampatti Dasha. Now, how these stages are connected, stages of Raganuga, and after connected with the 9 stages. Shravan, hearing about Krishna's pastimes of Braj. Now, at the stage of Nishtha, as I mentioned, one develops particular taste for hearing particular pastimes. So this specifically refers to hearing what? Braja pastimes. We are attracted more to the 10th canto. Those who are in the Vatsalya Ras will be attracted more to the Bal Krishna's pastimes. And they relish hearing these pastimes and cultivating the internal mood. So that is the stage of Shravana Dasha. Varana, getting the Siddha Dev from Guru. So we have developed that mood, and now we have become attached to hearing Krishna Katha, and we have some general idea what mood is mine, and then it is confirmed by the spiritual master, and he further guides in the cultivation of that mood and the practice. Now Smaran practicing Siddha Deha. So the Siddha Deha, which is the internal spiritual body which is contemplated, that development that development begins with Smaran, remembering. That development, just like I was giving the example of how the husband impregnates the wife, the seed is there, the seed of the soul is there. But only after a few months, the wife comes to know that she is pregnant. Yes. Now the actual form is there in the womb. And then the 9 months where the child starts developing the actually the body, and then the child is delivered. So this development of the body, that is how the development of the spiritual body happens. The development of the spiritual body in the stages of Smaran. These are corresponding to Ruchi and Asakti. There is Smaran, Dharana, Dhyana, Anusmriti, and then Samadhi. In Apan Dasha, there is the Bhava stage, realization of service in spiritual body. So Narottam Das Thakur in his spiritual body was serving in the spiritual world, and here in this body he was practicing his sadhana bhakti. He was like a sadhaka practicing sadhana bhakti. And then Sampati is leaving the body in prema. So this is how they correspond from the stage of Nishta coming to Ruchi and Asakti. The progressive Smaran is there, where there is an internal cultivation of the Siddha Deha. In Apan Dasha, we attain Bhava, and in Sampati Dasha, we have attained Prema, and we lead back to the spiritual world. Now, from this whole description, you can understand how perfect the whole science is, and especially we are all aware that there is in the Ashtanga Yoga path, Ashtanga. There are the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga practice. There is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam. And then there is Pratyahar, withdrawal of the senses from the sense objects. And then there is Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So just a correlation if you can have, at the stage of Pratyahar is like for us, like the stage of Nishta. For us, like it is the stage of Nishta, Pratyahar. And Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi, which are the 6th, 7th, and 8th limb in Ashtanga Yoga, we have what is the 5 stages, which is Varana Dasha, Smaran Dasha, Varana Dasha, Smaran Dasha, in which there are 5 sub-stages. There is Apan Dasha and then Sampatti Dasha. That's how for us it is. Now, if you remember these definitions which were given about Smarana is remembrance mixed with distraction. I'm just again sharing the screen. It is mixed with distraction. Dharan is remembrance free from distraction. Dhyan is meditation on the entire body of the object of meditation. And Anusmriti is constant meditation. Now, I would like to give some definition or some understanding of what actually is Dharan. Now, in the Puranas, it is mentioned that if one is able to hold on to a particular thought or recollect a particular image of the Lord for 12 seconds, he has attained the stage of Dharan. And if one is able to hold on to that thought or hold on to the object for 12 into 12 seconds, that is 144 seconds. 144? 144. That means 2 minutes, 14 seconds. He has attained the stage of Dhyan. And if somebody is able to hold on to a particular object and thought about Krishna or thought about or the form of Krishna in his mind for 144 into 12 seconds, that is around 28 minutes, he has attained the stage of Samadhi. Now, you can understand that how difficult it is for the mind to focus on maybe our reading also. When we are reading a particular purport of Srila Prabhupada, just to focus of what exactly is the meaning of that purport and constantly meditate on that purport for some few minutes also is not so easy. because our mind is so much in material consciousness. So that is why for many years in our beginning life of Krishna consciousness, at least 10-15 years, we should be constantly absorbed in hearing Krishna Katha from advanced devotees. Hearing, we should fill our ears with Krishna Katha. That slowly, by that Shravan and Kirtanam, then slowly we can come to this stage of Smaranam, which is a very, very elevated stage. So this was some understanding I wanted to give about this third stage, that is Smaran. Now, after describing this, there is one last paragraph. I will take this up and then take up the questions. Chaitanya Charitamrit advises those who are neophytes to give all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in regulated service of the Lord according to the directions of scripture. This is Vaidhi Bhakti. Practice Vaidhi Bhakti. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's names, form, qualities, and pastimes. So when we develop Nishtha, steadiness, we are attached to Krishna. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. That means now he comes to the stage of practicing Raganuga Bhakti. Comes to the stage of practicing Raganuga Bhakti. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. The Raga Bhaktas are the eternal associates, and the devotees now who have become attached to hearing Krishna Katha, attached to Krishna, attached to the eternal associates of Krishna, follow in the footsteps of the eternal associates, and the bhakti which is practiced is called as Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in Shantaras, when one aspires to be like Krishna's cow or a stick or a flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In Dasya, one can follow in the footsteps of servants like Chitrak, Patrak, and Raktak. In the friendly Sakyaras, who can become a friend like Baldev, Sridhama, or Sudama. In Vatsalyaras, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nand Maharaj and Yashoda. One can become like, not that one takes the position of Nand Maharaj and Yashoda. That will be Mayavad philosophy. And in the Madhurya Ras, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita, and her saving maids, Manjaris like Rup and Rati. This is the essence of all instructions in the matter of devotional service. So in the last paragraph, it is mentioned that Raganuga Bhakti in 5 different rasas: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. And in the Dasya, there are the friends. We follow the friends like Chitrak, Raktak, and Patrak. They are the friends of Krishna who have prominence of Dasya. They identify themselves as servants of Krishna. And that's why sometimes when Mother Yashoda is dressing Krishna, they also come and dress Krishna. Whereas the Sakas, like Sridhama and Sudama, they are like equals of Krishna, and sometimes they climb on Krishna. Those who are Chitrak and Raktak, they don't climb on Krishna. They have more intimacy in Dasiras, Sridhama and Sudama. That's why they can climb on Krishna. And in the Vatsalya, Krishna is their child. And in fact, they take superior position than God. They become the maintainers of God. God is the maintainer of everyone, because Mother Yashoda feels that if I don't feed him breast milk, he will become weak. So they become maintainers. That is Vatsalyaras. In the Madhuryas, there is the Madhurya Bhav. So that's what is being narrated. So again, these 5 stages of remembrance in Raganuga, how they correspond to the 9 stages of Bhakti. I explained that Shravana in Bhajan Kriya is unsteady. When it becomes steady after Anarth Nivritti, one attains Varana Dasha, where there is steady hearing. And in the Smaran stage, after Ruchi and Asakti, these are the 5 sub-stages, we go through it. And then at Bhava, we attain Apan Dasha. At Prema, we attain Sampati Dasha. So this is the sum and substance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Anovarity explanation. Anyone has any questions about this Anovarity explanation, these 5 stages, what we discussed now? Any clarifications? Anyone has any questions or clarifications? Okay. How many were able to follow the 5 stages at least? The Shravan Dasha, Varan Dasha, Smaran Dasha, Apan Dasha, and Sampati Dasha. One devotee is saying subject matter is too heavy to do. We should understand what a lofty practice we have been given, and we have to honor it. We have to understand what is the price we have to pay to get Krishna Prem. Yes, there is one question. Here also there is one question, but first I'll take here online. Yes, Surya Konda Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. That was
Yes.
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, among these 5 stages, or at what stage we, if you are in some particular stage, at what stage we will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death?
We have to attain the highest stage, that is Sampati Dasha.
Okay.
We have to come to that stage. Now, for us as Vaidhi Sadhakas, the most important activity we should do is to chant attentively our 16 rounds.
Okay.
And have eagerness to hear Krishna Katha from advanced devotees. Practice this for the next 10-15 years.
Okay.
Wherein we develop spontaneous attraction to hear Krishna Katha. And only when we do like this Shravan for many, many years, Shravana Puteshu, we should fill our ears with unlimited Krishna Katha. We can fill our mouth with how much food? No, there is some limit, but there is no limit to fill our ears. You can continuously fill our ears with as much as you want Krishna Katha, and there is no satiation, especially spiritual subjects. So for many years, we should fill our ears with Krishna Katha, so that slowly, we can develop taste for hearing Krishna Katha. I give the example of somebody who tries to dig a well. First when you start digging a well, you have to go deep down. You need to put in a lot of efforts to concentratedly hear Krishna Katha. It's like digging the deep well. And when you go deep and hit the rock where there is below water, and the water starts seeping up, and because you have gone deep, the water also starts overflowing up and starts filling the well. So when you keep on continuously hearing like this, what happens? Your heart starts, it's filled with Krishna Katha. And you feel a natural urge that, just like the water rises up in the well and starts overflowing from the well. Yes? So similarly, we should feel an urge that I should go and also speak this message to others, give Krishna Katha to others. Come to the stage of Kirtanam by doing a lot of Shravanam. And when you come to this stage of Kirtanam, also at a, with a long stage of hearing, then the stage of Smaranam comes, where you can remember Krishna gradually and progressively, as those 5 stages have been mentioned. So first the Smaranam is interrupted. We might be remembering Krishna, and then we are called for some other service, and we forget throughout the day and we can't remember anything about Krishna. So the remembrance is interrupted, but because we continuously start doing Kirtanam, just like the water is overflowing from the well, So similarly, our heart should overflow that so much we have heard that we would like to go and, preach Krishna Katha. And like this, we start going through the 5 stages of Smaran Avastha and attain perfection. These are after the stages of Ruchi, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema. So the Smaranam should be continuous. Mat chitta mat gata prana bodhayanta parasparam katasyanta mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Srila Prabhupada in this purport to 10.10 in the Bhagavad Gita, he says the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. That's how he translates. A very interesting, okay. 10.9 it is. Yeah, 10.9. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Dwell in means what? Reside. So the pure devotees, they might be, thinking about some service, and they will, they might be giving some counseling, and after the counseling over, their thoughts naturally flow back to Krishna spontaneously, because, they reside in Krishna. So the thoughts of the pure devotees dwell in Krishna. Mat chitta, minds fully engaged in me. Mat gata prana, they feel that if I don't hear Krishna Katha, I might have to leave my body. Just like if you don't have food, you'll become weak. So annagata prana, we are annagata prana. But these are like what? Mat gata prana. If they don't hear about me, they'll have to leave their bodies, they feel. So this is the stage of remembrance which comes with, Shravanam and Kirtanam. And then comes the stage of Smaranam, where we enter into Raganuga Bhakti. So one nice lecture I heard in Vrindavan, in Navdeep, where a Vaishnava scholar was saying that we should be Dirgha Shruta and Bahu Shruta. What is Dirgha Shruta? Anyone knows? We should sit and hear Krishna Katha for a long time. We should be prepared to sit and hear for a long time, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, especially in the age of distraction of mobiles and smartphones. And Bahushuta means one should hear that same subject from different angles, from many speakers, and get a deeper understanding of that subject. Or we might study the 10th canto, first by studying Prabhupada's commentary. And then we might study the 10th canto by studying Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Then we might study the 10th canto by studying Sanatana Goswami's commentary. Of course, all the essence of these commentaries are given by Srila Prabhupada and his disciples who have translated 10th canto. But like that, Bahushuta, Dirgha Shruta and Bahushuta. So this, if we start doing, then slowly Smaranam will start. And with that Smaranam perfection in Sampati Dasha, we are actually in Krishna. We are residing in Krishna. So that's how we can understand. The mother who has natural love for their child, even though she is doing all her household activities, but in her heart, she is always meditating on the child. Her remembrance of the child is very constant, because she has deep love for the child. So when we develop pure love for Krishna, the remembrance is continuous. So that's the point. Once Srila Prabhupada had gone, Srila Prabhupada, in America, he was on a temporary visa, but then he told his disciples to get him a long-term visa. So they applied for the visa, but he had to go to the embassy for an interview. So Srila Prabhupada came, and there was a lady who was interviewing Srila Prabhupada about his visa. And meeting a saintly person and a great personality like Srila Prabhupada, this lady asked, can you summarize philosophy in one word, in one statement? So Prabhupada, being the genius, he said that Krishna consciousness means to continuously remember Krishna. So she said, this is impossible. Impossible. Prabhupada was so practical personality he gave an example which she can understand. So he said that just like, you in the morning dress up very beautifully and come to the office, and in the office time, in the daytime, you're absorbed in your work, but you're always conscious that how you're looking beautifully. Similarly, we should do all our activities, but we should be conscious and constantly remembering Krishna. So when Srila Prabhupada answered this, she was very satisfied with the answer. So this is the art, and it is a matter of cultivation, which comes with practice. So we need to practice in the sadhaka stage. Any other clarifications or questions anyone has? There was one question by Mohan Rup Sham Prabhuji. You have any question? Here is one question we will take up. Yes, Prabhuji. Fun. Okay. Yeah, this one.
So the one dasha we get at the stage of Nishtha. But then one more slide it was there that at one dasha we get to know expert spiritual master tells that okay, this bhav what we meditate, this is the body is correct. So that is again at the Nishtha.
Okay, the question is that at the stage of Varan Dasha, the Guru actually indicates the disciple that this is your mood and you cultivate it. Firstly, you have to understand that Shravan Dasha is a long stage in Bhajan Kriya. In fact, I attended one seminar in Mayapur. It was a 3-day seminar. Just, and the topic was from Shravan Dasha to Varan Dasha. Just from Shravan Dasha to Varan Dasha. It was a 3-day seminar on just this topic. So Shravan Dasha, I briefly explained, our Shravan is now at the unsteady stage because there are anarthas. It is unsteady practice of the Vaidhi Bhakti. So when we, slowly become free from anarthas, slowly our hearing also becomes very, very steady. Whatever we hear, immediately we can summarize and explain it to others. That is, we all know that when we hear what we have heard yesterday, we forget today because our memories are not sharp, our concentration is not deep, and the chit is agitated by rajas and tamas. But when the chit is very steady, situated in satoguna, whatever we hear, we can remember, recollect, and explain in summary. So that hearing, we go through that Shravan Dasha, where there is Shravan Dasha hearing in steadiness. And then we develop the stage of Nishtha, where we have a general understanding of our constitution, a general understanding. And then there is a particular mood also. But that mood, along with the spiritual master and disciple, there is discussion, and where the disciples, spiritual master seeing the disciples mood, tells him to cultivate a particular mood. It's a very elaborate science. And we can just understand that a particular mood is there. And then he starts cultivating that mood internally in his internal meditation. Now, if I tell you devotees here, online also here, that when you're sitting and chanting, can you go to Govind Kund and absorb yourself thinking that you're sitting in Govind Kund 2 hours and chanting while you're here in the temple? It's not so easy. Internally, just to mentally meditate that you're in Vrindavan in Govind Kund, or you're at, Govardhan. What to speak of internally having mentally being placed there, to hear the Maha Mantra attentively is also not possible. We are struggling, right? But at that stage of steadiness, he is mentally able to go in that places and mentally be there and absorbed in his chanting. Although he's physically maybe somewhere else, in the temple or some other place he's chanting. So this is how advanced is practice of Raganuga Bhakti. What to speak of internally in the internal meditation, cultivation of the spiritual body. Mentally to recite also is a very advanced stage. I hope it is clear. Okay. Okay.
You mentioned that usually the sadhakas, Gaudiya version of sadhakas, they usually incline towards the Manjari because we are followers of sadhaka. But we see that in the line of groups, we have a few numbers. So spiritually, a few numbers also is a Manjari, the Anitya Lila. And Bhakti Saraswati Thakur also is a Manjari. But Prabhupada is the Opa. That's what I have heard. I'm not sure about it. So we just wanted to ask whether
There is another question. I'll just briefly rephrase the question that it was mentioned that generally the Manjari forms are prominent in our Sampradaya, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had come to give this Unnata Ujjvala Rasa, the highest form of Prema Bhakti, that is the conjugal love. And we see that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is in the spiritual form. He himself has revealed it in his bhajans that he is also a Manjari. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is also Kamala Nayana Manjari. Yes. Nayana Mani Manjari. Yeah. He is Nayana Mani Manjari. But Srila Prabhupada, he himself did not discuss anything about his spiritual form, and we should not speculate about it. We should not speculate about it. And once Prabhupada disciple asked, about it, and Prabhupada very sarcastically answered, when the right comes, I will reveal your form. No, to you. You need not worry about it. So we should not go into that zone, especially as sadhakas, and we should not speculate about this topic at all. And this has been a matter of discussion in many forums, and many times this has come up. But the clear understanding is that since Prabhupada himself did not reveal anything about it, we should not speculate about it. Okay. There is one more question. In Dirgha Shruta is okay for long time remembering Krishna, but in Bhau maybe a deviation comes in spiritual path or not. No, in Dirgha Shruta, yes, this is good for us. In Bhau means firstly, it can be hearing the pastimes of Krishna from the scriptures, Bhagavatam, as I was mentioning, hearing Prabhupada's Bhakti Vedanta purports, and then if we have taste for hearing Vishwanath Chakra Thakur commentary, we can hear. Also, we can hear many of the sannyasis who speak on these pastimes of Krishna. And you might have liking for particular one or two or three sannyasis who explain Krishna Katha very melodiously, very nectarianly, analyzing these pastimes. And based on your taste, based on these sannyasis, you can hear those lectures where you can have deeper insight into the Krishna Katha. So that's how I mean Bahushruta. Bahushruta means trying to understand Krishna's pastimes from different angles, or from different speakers, or from different acharyas. Actually, it enhances the rasa in one sense. So there is no contradiction in this, or no deviation in this path. Okay. So tomorrow we'll need only 45 to 50 minutes to finish text 9, and then we'll continue with text 10. In the next week, we will take up text 11. So next week, one class is sufficient, and that's how we'll finish Updeshamrit. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai, Shri Upadeshamrit ki jai. Hare Krishna.